Hi guys, James at Goddard Radio Moscow Beer and Meta Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we're continuing on yet again with my series of Kiwi beer reviews that I've been doing over the last few videos. For this one though, we are going to go to a little town called Riwaka, which is in the northwest of the South Island of New Zealand, and I think this is only the second South Island beer review that I've actually done for you in this series so far. So for this one, we are going to have a taste of a beer from Hop Federation, and this is their Rakau IPA, which is a single hop IPA. The Rakau is quite a New Zealand hop, so should be quite an interesting one for us to try anyway. So as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a very short history of the brewery. It is only a minute or two, but if you do want to just get straight to the tasting, just fast forward a minute or two. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that I will hopefully do from these guys in the very near future. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about this brewery itself, the Hop Federation Brewery was founded by Simon and Nikki Nicholas in 2013 when they left their jobs in Auckland to relocate to Riwaka in the heart of the Tasman district's hop growing region. Of course, as I've mentioned in quite a few of my videos before, New Zealand is an excellent place to grow hops because there's no kind of natural predators for them, if you like. But the brewery opened its doors in September of 2013 and it had an initial offering of 4 different beers. Now Simon is in charge of the brewing and he was previously chief brewer at Hallertau Brew Bar in Auckland, and he had previously had a lengthy experience in the alcohol industry working with Glengarry Wines. Incidentally, one of the last beers I reviewed for you was actually from Hallertau, and Glengarry Wines and Spirits on Dominion Road was where I actually bought these beers that I've been reviewing for you, so a little bit of kind of a small world element there. But Nikki is actually in charge of the marketing and the sales, and she strives to make the brewery business kind of very customer focused, with the idea of educating people about craft beer. I mean, there's a whole lot to learn about different hops and everything like that, so for them to do a sort of single hop IPA like this guy is actually quite a good thing, because it, you know, it kind of makes people more aware of the different flavours that you get from different hops and stuff like that. So the brewery is apparently located on the main road to Golden Bay, the Abel Tasman National Park, and Kataieri. I'm sorry again if my pronunciation's not quite right there. And this is an area of popular beaches in the South Island in New Zealand, but they do have a tasting room which you can go and visit. And as I said to you at the start of the video, the brewery website is in the video description, so you can go and check that out for yourselves. So anyway, to list a few of the different beers they have for you, in their core range they have the Golden, the Pale Ale, American Brown Ale and the Red IPA. In their seasonal range there's this guy here, the Rakau IPA, there's the Double IPA, Barrel Aged Stout and also the West Coast IPA. So to tell you about this guy himself, just before we get on to that, I shall bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. It's very nice, very simply done actually. I do actually quite like the label on this one. You can see it has the sort of beer, would you call that honeycomb, the sort of beer hive kind of texture, beehive texture in there. And it says on the back, it says Riwaka Aotearoa. It says, our entry in Nelson's March Fest 2014, this varietal IPA features a relatively new local hop, Rakau. Its delicate nose and tropical fruit flavours combine elegantly with the Gladfield malts from Canterbury in a refreshing apricot coloured beer with a rounded bittersweet finish. Hop Federation is a family-owned craft brewery ideally situated in Riwaka, in the heart of New Zealand's hop growing region, the Tasman region. With a passion for the brewer's art and dedication to producing seriously delicious ales, Simon and Nikki Nicholas welcome you to the world of Hop Federation craft beers. So www.hopfederation.co.nz, and it does give you the address on there, 483 Main Road, Riwaka 7198, New Zealand. And this guy, as I mentioned to you, is a 5.7% single hop IPA, and it has a plain bottle cap on this one, and it would be quite cool if they put the hop flower in white on that. I think that would be a very nice touch, but maybe that's something that will come later, because as I said, they were only founded about 2 years ago, so it's a very new brewery. So anyway, without further ado, that's all the information on the beer and the brewery, so let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting here. So as you can see, a little bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll just get this guy out and into the glass. And I have to say, just while I'm pouring this, this is the 7th or 8th Kiwi beer review that I've filmed when I've been out here. New Zealand beer, as I've repeated on quite a few occasions in these videos, it really is excellent. I've been very impressed with the standards out here, and you do find that even in American beers and Scottish beers and stuff where they use New Zealand hops, there is something just quite special about the character of these hops, so it's really cool. The New Zealanders really know how to make a good beer. So as you can see with me pouring this beer, there's about a 2 finger of a slightly kind of creamy coloured frothy white head. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see it is quite hazy. If I put my eye behind it, I can see the computer through this, so you can see it is kind of hazy and a little bit transparent. So it's a kind of I've described that as quite a rich kind of goldeny amber colour. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but there is a good bit of little bubbles kind of just going up towards the bottom of the head. So it looks a really, really nice beer, and the kind of typical colour you would expect of an IPA. So in terms of the aroma, you've got a nice big kind of fruity mix in there. What this reminds me of, actually, there's a big fruity element in this, and what it really reminds me of is the yogurts that my mum used to give me when I was going to school. So I think it's apricot. You know, it reminds me of these Munch Bunch apricot yogurts, the kind of fruit part of this beer. If I sugar it up a little bit, yeah, definitely. And if you sugar it up, you actually get a little bit of the pine resin coming out, maybe just a little touch of grapefruit. But I think it's mainly an apricot-y and sort of orangey mouthfeel to sort of aroma to this one rather. But there's a kind of aromatic-y and floral character to it, but it's a big juicy apricot and slightly orange nose that you're getting off this one, in my opinion. But it's got a nice aromatic and floral character as well. The fruits are the most prominent part of the aroma, but it's definitely apricot orange and then a kind of underlying of pine resin in there. Smells very, very juicy. If you take it in, if you sort of breathe it in a little bit more deeply, you can pick up just a kind of little bit of biscuity, maybe a little bit of cereal malt in there as well. But it's a really nice nose. As I always say, just take a little bit of time to smell your beer, and it does actually kind of give you a good idea of what the taste is going to be like. But it's interesting, I guess. As I said, this is a kind of classic New Zealand hop, or a very new New Zealand hop, so definitely give it a go and just take in as much information about this hop as you can. So anyway, without further ado, let's have a taste of this guy from Hop Federation in Riwaka. Sorry, the name just kind of went right out of my head there. Riwaka in South Isle, New Zealand. Cheers. That's quite interesting, actually. The first hint that I'm getting is that it's quite there's a good little bit of earthiness and kind of it's almost like a little bit of a chalky feel to the hop of this one, actually. So yeah, much like the aroma, you've got a nice mix of fruits in this guy. You've got apricots being the most prominent one, and I remember that with the apricot that I had. It has this almost, maybe chalky isn't the best word to describe it. It has this kind of sort of thicker mouthfeel to it, if you like. It has that kind of thicker taste, and then you get a little bit of sweetness on top of it. This beer has that feel to it, and it actually suits the kind of apricot flavours really well. There's some oranges in there mixing, but you're actually getting quite a bit of grapefruit, I think. There's a lot of kind of the sour character. Not quite sour, I would say. There is a good bit of it's just that kind of bitterish character, if you like, that you get from the grapefruit. That element of the flavour is definitely present here. But yeah, you'll feel the oil. It has a little oily mouthfeel, and it kind of builds up and comes towards the front of the tongue. And that's where you're getting a lot of the fruity flavours. It definitely is composed mainly of apricot, and you've got the juicy orange in there too, but the grapefruit, the sort of, I don't want to say sourness, but the kind of grapefruity flavours come forward, but there is a good bit of pine resin, and that just sits around the edge of the tongue there, and you get that nice kind of dry, piney resin, aromatic-y flavour from this guy. In the middle of the tongue, you're getting quite I think there's a good bit of caramel in there. It's a bit stronger, the caramel note, from some of the other ones I've had. But this, to me, this hop feels quite oily, actually, and it does have, as I said, with the apricot yogurts that I used to have, they had this kind of thickening element to them, and you can really pick up the feel of that in this beer, in my opinion. But yeah, I'd stick with that. You've got this oily mouthfeel that kind of builds up and it brings out a lot of the fruit flavours. You're getting a nice bit of apricot, like I said, some juicy oranges, but there is a good bit of grapefruit that mixes in with this really kind of drying pine resin that just goes right around the edge of the tongue. In the middle of the palate, you're getting the sort of caramel malt that's quite sweet, but it really is. It's more of a hop forward beer, this one, than a kind of blend, if you like. It is definitely a hop forward beer rather than one of these ones where they try to balance it a little bit more, and that's good. It's that's what you would want in a single IPA. You want to actually get the characteristics of the hop. Yeah, as you take a few more sips of it, I would say that the caramel actually does become a little bit more prominent. It's quite a dark caramel in this one rather than a sweet one, and it suits that kind of piney resin quite well. The flavours actually, I was saying they don't blend together all that well earlier, but they do. As you go through it, you get that nice darker caramel element that really suits the kind of grapefruity and piney resin elements of this beer. And I really do like the single hop IPAs because it does give you an idea of the sort of components of things. I have a very kind of compartmental mind, and I do like to know what each component contributes to something. And the single hop IPAs are a really good way to kind of increase your knowledge about sort of beer tasting and stuff like that. So it's really cool to have a very new New Zealand hop and be able to look at it in this way. But in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say it's got a kind of mid-bodied feel. The sort of dry bitter character makes it feel a bit heavier than it probably is, but you've got, as I said, you have a nice bit of juiciness to it, but that dry character kind of brings it out, and that's what lingers into the aftertaste. You get the nice grapefruity feel and the nice sort of piney resins. They're the things that kind of stick around. The malt base is quite subdued by the hoppy character, but as I say, that's what you would expect of a single hop IPA. And it is really nice, as I say. The thing that makes this beer a little bit different is that you get you're getting that sort of apricot feel to it, and that hop is quite interesting in that regard. And you've got some nice oranges, and it's just a really nice hop blend, and you get a really cool take on a new hop that you won't find very often. So overall, I would say it's a nice light IPA actually. If you don't want something that's too heavy, there is a little bit of alcohol warmth to it, even though it is 5.7%. I've had ones that are heavier than this, and they haven't felt quite as heavy, if that makes sense. You can get ones that have a higher ABV that feel a bit lighter. The sort of characteristics of the hop of this, though, do make it feel a little bit heavier. Maybe just how kind of resiny it is, because it is a very resinous hop, this. But it tastes very nice. If you want something a little bit different and you're a fan of the IPA style, I would recommend that you definitely give this a go. And I'd certainly drink this if I found it in the pub. It's really nice, and I am a big fan of single hop IPAs, like I said. So it's quite juicy and it's quite easy drinking. And as I said quite a few times in this video, it's quite interesting to try a very different kind of Kiwi single hop IPA. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Hopefully I can review a few more beers from Hop Federation in the future. It's been quite cool to get a hold of one of the seasonal ones, because obviously I'm only here in New Zealand for a very short time, but hopefully I can come back and get a few more of their beers at some point and review those for you. But if this is one to kind of speak for the range that Hop Federation do, and I've heard that they are a very, very good brewery, go and check them out, go and check out their bar and things like that, and try their beers. As I've heard from the Kiwis, some very good breweries. And New Zealand beer, like I've said, is a very, very, it's an awesome country for beer. So go and check it out. I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer, and indeed the brewery, because I'm interested to hear those. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I will catch you soon with the next in my series of Kiwi beer reviews. Cheers.